We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Mike, we finally have some other big boards, other mock drafts to react to here. The Bleacher Report team, they have like a team of analysts, including Nate Tice, Brandon Thorne, Derek Clausen, put together a top 100 draft board for the 2022 NFL Draft. I don't really want to focus in on...
Are you going to name like three of the guys, and then there's Corey Giddings and Brent Sobleski too?
I didn't know there was only two more. I guess I couldn't think of them all at the same time. Sorry. I guess Brent Sobleski and Corey Giddings also on that panel of analysts there. I don't think we focus on the top 100 though, because I want to focus on the position rankings for Bleacher Report's top 100.
Okay.
And then
whatever you want to focus on. I'm here to do whatever.
Trevor Sikkema also did a mock draft recently. We said we'd react to that. Going to pull that up as well. Look at some of his picks ahead of the 2022 NFL Draft. In the back of the show, like I said, Oregon State head coach Jonathan Smith already passed his win total for the 2021 season, changing the culture for the Beavs up there in Corvallis. So let's start now with this Bleacher Report big board ranking here. And I want to start with the quarterback class. The quarterback class, they have right now Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati is their number one quarterback in the class. Matt Corral of Ole Miss at number 2. Kenny Pickett at 3, who right now is QB1 for Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper Jr. just came out with his latest big board. I think we'll react to that on Thursday's episode. But Kenny Pickett is QB1 for Mel Kiper Jr., the Pittsburgh quarterback that has ascended up ranks. He's also the highest graded quarterback according to PFF so far this season, really taking a step forward. Focusing in on that top 3, no Malik Willis, no Spencer Rattler, no Sam Howell. This is a unique top 3 for Bleacher Report.
I think you're going to see a lot of unique top 3s, top 4s, top 5s, whatever, in this quarterback class because of, goes back to what we keep saying, there's no guy. Like there's no, or guys like there was in 2021 at the top that you're like, this guy I'm taking number 1. This guy's the total package. And there's no guy that's really playing good football. And I put out, our quarterback rankings got tweeted out last week, and I had Quincy Avery, one of the famous quarterback coaches who trains a lot of NFL guys, a lot of guys college training for the pros, and Jim Nagy, Senior Bowl director. And my mention saying Desmond Ridder should be top 4. And then Desmond Ridder puts up just a dog shit performance against Army, of all people. It has probably his 2, we're going to talk about him later in the fall, it's probably the 2 worst throws he's made all season long. And I went back and reviewed Ridder's tape, and I probably was too low on him. I probably wasn't giving enough credence to who he's been this season. But even him, like you watch the tape of him against Army this past week, and you're going to try to convince me to draft that guy top 10. It's a scary proposition. And I think that's the case with a lot of these guys, really the guys who haven't played bad football this year, or at times, Corral, Pickett are the 2 who really have probably had the most complete sort of trajectories. But even them, those guys are kind of one-year wonders to a degree. Pickett especially, in that this is a different player than we've seen at any point prior to. So from that perspective, that will make you worried as well. So I do think this quarterback class is a mess. And however you really want to rake them at this point in time, I'm not going to argue too much.
Yeah.
These guys, like I've said, a lot of them have arm talent. A lot of them have rushing ability. None of them really have the complete package at this point.
I mean, that's evident, like as you're saying. I mean, that's evident in that no one has a QB1. Like, there's no consensus QB1. There's no consensus QB2 because it's kind of just a hodgepodge of talent. And it depends. It's kind of like a flavor. Like, what flavor of quarterback do you want? I think you made a good point there, though, that there are 2 quarterbacks that have been excellent this season that don't have like obvious duds on their tape. That is Matt Corral of Ole Miss and Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh. Right now, Kenny Pickett among quarterbacks in the FBS has the highest PFF passing grade and also the highest PFF passing grade from a clean pocket, which we know is more stable than looking at overall passing grade. Other quarterbacks notable on that list: Carson Strong of Nevada is number 3, right behind Bryce Young of Alabama. Then you have Grayson McCall, the Coastal Carolina quarterback, at 4. A little bit down the road, though, Matt Corral inside the top 10. What you don't see is Malik Willis. Malik Willis, the Liberty quarterback that comes in at number 4 here, right ahead of Spencer Rattler, right ahead of Sam Howell, etc. The last 2 games for Malik Willis haven't been good. 7 turnover-worthy plays in the last 2 games. Is he falling a bit in your eyes? I know he's that toolsy guy. I know he's a running back at the quarterback position with that rocket arm, but where's he right now? You see him QB4 here. Where is he for you?
Yeah, he's the one that I just would struggle to really, for sure, put in round 1. Like, obviously, he's been in the quarterback 1 conversation, but he's just so far away still. Like, he's not starting next year with the way he's played this year at Liberty. And again, the tools are insane, but he's still a massive project, and that's year 5 for him in college football. A massive project that deep in. You can forgive Trey Lance for being a project, whatever. For the level of competition he's playing against Malik Willis, obviously at Liberty, not playing against great competition either. That's obviously going to be a thing, but in year 5 compared to year 2.5, whatever, for Trey Lance coming out, that's a big, big difference for me. The interesting thing on this list, though, for as much as Spencer Rattler getting benched, maybe transferring, maybe not even in this draft, they still have him ahead of Sam Howell. So they've said Howell's fallen further, or maybe they just didn't have as high opinion of Howell in the first place than Spencer Rattler, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. I think Jaden Daniels is also high on this list. Jaden Daniels, Arizona State, doesn't even rank inside the top 30 in PFF passing grade from a clean pocket. Has been I was talking to Anthony Tresh, a college analyst here at PFF, and he's like, you look at how much Arizona State has had to adjust this offense for Jaden Daniels' limitations. To put him ahead of even guys like Carson Strong, Jake Haener, Tanner McKee of Stanford, that feels a little bit rich for me as well. I mean, they're chasing tools with some of these guys, right? Like Spencer Rattler, Daniels, both toolsy guys. Howell, too, with that rocket arm. I'm more confident in Howell over Daniels and Rattler at this point. And there's even a conversation to put him ahead of Willis, too.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's arguments for every single one.
Any way you slice it.
Exactly.
All right, let's move to the running back list here. I don't want to focus on this too much. Running backs is always a list that I think changes a lot for us. Combine heavily impacts this. Right now, according to Bleacher Report, Breece Hall, number 1, the Iowa State running back. Number 2, our RB1 right now, Kenneth Walker of Michigan State. Then you have Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M, Zach Charbonnet, UCLA. And then this is the back I want to focus on. Kyren Williams of Notre Dame. Another analyst here at PFF, Ben Lindsay, who does the Notre Dame packets for NBC every single week. He has been watching NBC or Notre Dame tape all season long, maybe even more than you. He likes Kyren Williams. He's RB5 here. I know he's RB9 for us. Where are you at right now for Kyren Williams? Do you see a guy that he could maybe move up boards, 5'9", 199 pounds?
Yeah, I just, one, that size is a tad worrisome. Like I said, 199 pounds is small for an NFL running back. Like he looks good in pass protection, looks good for a college back, but that's still on the majority of guys who are productive NFL backs are 210 plus. And when you are on the shorter side, smaller side, weight-wise, you better have some speed. And I'd be surprised if he broke like a 4.6. Like he's Clyde Edwards-Helaire-esque in that regard, in that you're just going to look better against college linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties trying to tackle you than you are against NFL guys when you are, like I said, only 199 pounds without elite juice. And that's kind of how I see Kyren Williams. So I'll just chase guys who have a little bit either better size or better athleticism.
I'll tell you right now, if he goes to the combine, Kyren Williams, Notre Dame, weighs in around 200 at 5'9" and doesn't crack 4.5s. I'm 100% worried about that type of back in today's NFL. And he's not even a guy that, when we look at, I think Devin Singletary of FAU was not great size, but forced a ton of missed tackles. Then you have Javonte Williams, who was not a great speed back out of UNC, but forced a ton of missed tackles. Kyren Williams is not anywhere near the top of PFF's list in forced missed tackles per attempt. He hasn't been at least that type of back. Looking at some of the highest graded backs in the country that are in this draft class, Kenneth Walker at 1, Zach Charbonnet at 2, Chase Brown of Illinois, another guy up there. I'm not sure if he's in this draft class though, but still, not Kyren Williams. I think he'll be an interesting one. More people will like him. He's a tough runner. I think a lot of people like how he runs the football, but whether or not he's that top 5 prospect, I think we'll see.
Yeah, I think they're the top of the board though. Hall, Walker, Spiller, Charbonnet, very similar to how we have it. Maybe not in that order, but the same names.
Receivers is where it gets interesting, man. Drake London is their wide receiver 1, and Nate Tice does the wide receiver scouting. He's been on this podcast. A fantastic follow on Twitter. I think it's just Nate Tice on Twitter. He has Drake London wide receiver 1. He is, in my opinion, the obvious favorite to win the Biletnikoff this year. He's easily been the most productive wide receiver.
I'd be floored if he doesn't.
And I would 100% back the fact that he's the best college football receiver right now.
Yeah.
However, is he the type of receiver that I know you and I know and love, that separator at the next level, that guy with speed, that guy can win down the football field outside of contested catch situations? I haven't seen that. I think you said maybe a few weeks ago or a month ago that London, his best position in the NFL, may be this big slot role. And that's how I kind of see it too. I know he's played a lot more outside receiver at USC this year. He's also a friend of the show. Your reaction to Drake London, the USC wideout, the big monster for the Trojans at wide receiver 1 for Tyson Bleacher Report?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like. Don't get me wrong. He's wide receiver 3 for us. He's got insane ball skills, ridiculous catch radius. Like he will have a role that is very easy to project at the next level. Like if you want to run him as a big slot, if you want to run him as a possession wide receiver, third down sort of specialist, the intermediate level, he can do that. I just would prefer a guy who can also, in today's NFL, attack deep with some legit speed. And I think there's no more real indicative stat for that for London this season than 46 of his 79 receptions have gone first downs. Only 46, 58%. It's an incredibly low rate for a wide receiver, and that's just because that's kind of the targets he's getting and the targets he will get probably at the next level. And there's value to that. Don't get me wrong, like that guy that you can rely on, very valuable, but I'm just going to chase. If I am, wide receiver 1, where they have him on their big board, top 15, I think top 10 player, actually. They have him ahead of Kyle Hamilton on the big board, which, fuck. That's
But their grading
that's
systems are different, right?
They're great. I don't know, yeah. They have different analysts grading different positions, giving grades that...
Like numerical scores.
Different. That's always tough to sort of marry together at the end. But I'll just say, I prefer the guys that, like I said, have some downfield juice. And I just think London, I mean, if he runs in the 4.5s, by all means, he could be wide receiver 1, but I don't quite see it on tape. And even from the outside this year, I haven't seen it.
I would argue that Drake London could happily be the best big receiver in this class among a lot of big receivers. You have Drake London, Treylon Burks, Bell's that big contested catch guy for Purdue. Justin Ross of Clemson. I think in the beginning I was like big on Burks, who's also been on this show, but I think London maybe could be the best big receiver. But after that, then it's like Olave and Wilson, I still have firmly as that wide receiver 1A, wide receiver 1B for me, because you see them consistently create separation. Olave is one of the best route runners in college football, and yes, he's a little bit older. He came back to school for Ohio State, but I still feel Olave and Wilson are those guys that I'm more willing to spend top 20, top 25 draft capital on before I get even into these big receivers like London, Burks, Ross, etc. Mm-hmm. The other receiver point I want to mention, and I know I didn't run through a lot of the rankings here. They have London 1, Olave, Ohio State at 2, Dotson of Penn State at 3, and then Wilson and Burks at 4 and 5. One I wanted to highlight, and I know I wanted to bring up Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board on Thursday. Mel Kiper Jr., who originally had Jahan Dotson as wide receiver 1, has moved him to wide receiver 3. His new wide receiver 1 is Jamison Williams of Bama, and Tice has Williams here at 12, wide receiver 12. And I know you and I watched the Bama game, Bama-Tennessee. We were in Tuscaloosa and continue to be blown away with the Ohio State transfer, former 4-star, how much he's had success with Bama. But are you ready to – where do you stand? Are you more on the wide receiver 1 side or the wide receiver 12 side between ESPN and Bleacher Report?
I think both are kind of crazy to me. Obviously, since he's wide receiver 5 for us, we are right in the middle, which is kind of funny to see how that worked out in terms of the difference of opinion there. I just think he's not a complete type of route runner at 6'2", 189. He is your downfield speed guy. Like that's what he's been for Bama. That's probably what he's going to be at the next level. I don't see him being even like Terry McLaurin-esque, because Terry McLaurin was 210 coming out. Terry McLaurin is still physical. He leads the NFL in contested catches. Like he had that to his game as well. So I don't think he's quite that could be a number 1 receiver, but he's also, I don't want to say a sure thing, but with how fast that dude plays in the football field, that in and of itself is a weapon that I'll take over. George Pickens they have at 9, who has torn his ACL, hasn't played this year. Like I'll take over some of those guys, even like Justin Ross, who's the big physical contested catch guy who really does struggle a little bit to separate down the football field. Give me the speed guy who has that in today's NFL every day. So that's how I feel about Williams all the way down 12.
The next position group I want to jump to for Bleacher Report, not going to go every single one in the interest of time. Is
you want to do tight ends? Tight ends looks lit, dude.
You want to go tight ends?
No.
Offensive tackle, which I think will be really good conversation all draft season as to where you slot these guys, because I do think it's a really good class. It's an interesting class too. A lot of shapes and sizes here. Ikem Ekwonu, friend of the show.
A lot of shapes and sizes. They're all fucking huge.
They're all fucking huge. But I think there's the interesting discussion for me is going to be slotting guys at guard versus tackle, because I think you have Brugler, I believe, liking Ekwonu as a tackle, Kuiper and yourself liking Ekwonu maybe in at guard. And here, Ekwonu is Brandon Thorne of Bleacher Report's number 1 offensive tackle. I think with this grading system, also their number 2 overall player. Hello, Ikem Ekwonu. And then number 2, Evan Neal of Bama. Number 3, the rising star that is Charles Cross of Mississippi State, a guy I think you highlighted maybe 2 months ago as if he could put it together. A lot of people will like his tape. Charles Cross up there on both the Bleacher Reports and ESPN's big board right now. Those are their top 3 tackles. Your reaction to Ekwonu, Neal, Cross. How do you see that playing out?
Well, shit, I just put Ekwonu. I just locked him in the first round. So I obviously see him in a similar light in terms of how good he is. Now, I'm never going to say, for a college tackle, I'm never going to say, no, immediately put him at guard. You always give the guy a chance. I think he'd be a better guard, but I do think, he probably could play tackle at the NFL level. The way he's played this year makes me think more so than the way he played in 2020. And his tape has been better than Neal's. I'm not sure better than Cross's in pass protection, but definitely better than Neal's so far this season. And for haggling over physical tools, it's kind of like at that point, when you're haggling over physical tools for one guy who is damn good in his own right in Ekwonu, one guy who's about as elite as it gets in Evan Neal. I think the on-field, the tape is the ultimate decider. Then at that point, where the difference isn't that massive that, I can see Ekwonu over Evan Neal by season's end. I don't think that's crazy.
Looking at interior offensive line and interior defensive line, Thorne, not a lot of surprises here. Top 2 guys, Tyler Linderbaum and Kenyon Green at 1 and 2. And then for interior defensive line, Clausen takes over the scouting. Jordan Davis is an 8.9 in his grading scale, or his approach to the grading scale, the number 1 defensive tackle. And then after that, there isn't a guy in the 8s. Perrion Winfrey of Oklahoma comes in at 7.8. What I'm surprised by, you love seeing Jordan Davis at 1. I think everyone's going to love Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle for Georgia, the freaking monster. But number 4 is DeMarvin Leal. Texas A&M.
That was the biggest surprise of anyone on this list for me.
Yeah, DeMarvin Leal's number 4 among interior defensive linemen. He explains his grade a little bit here, talking about getting bullied too much in the run game for his size, all that stuff. But your reaction, I guess, I'm floored because Leal's tape to me is havoc bringing. I think every time you turn it on, he's such a disruptive force in the passing game and the run game. I'm surprised that he can't even crack, the top 2 in what is already like a weak interior defensive line class.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the guys ahead of him, someone like Perrion Winfrey, who we're going to talk about in the Fallers this week, because that guy has struggled mightily in the running game this year. And he obviously brings up Leal's struggles, but Leal has struggled on the interior because he's never played interior. He's always been an edge there for Texas A&M, and that's kind of the maybe a little bit scary thing with him is that he's 290, but an edge guy. But at 290, can you play edge in the NFL nowadays? I don't know. With all the option runs, all you have to play in space, that he may have to kick inside. So there is a little bit of tweener to his game that may scare teams away, some teams. But, man, they said he's good, not great athlete. I think I see a great athlete. For a guy who's 290 pounds, I think I see a special player that I think in time will be able to hold up in the run game. Or if you are a scheme that one gaps, that is not asking guys to necessarily grab guards and tackles, but just get upfield, Leal is your guy in this class.
The edge group, man, every time I look, any list you see, whether ESPN, Bleacher Report, PFF, it's just so good. Like, there are so many talented edge players in this class. For Clausen, he has Kayvon Thibodeaux at 1, George Karlaftis at 2, Aiden Hutchinson at 3. That's his top 3. And I think there's arguments to all of that. I think you could put Karlaftis as high as 2. I don't think anyone's really topping Kayvon Thibodeaux when it's all said and done. But Karlaftis, Hutchinson, all really talented. What the most surprising one for me here is, I know this edge group is good. Kingsley Nagbury of South Carolina at 10.
Yeah.
Behind Benito, Harrison, I'm going to butcher this last name for Penn State, Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah, that one's
I like his tape too. I also like Jermaine Johnson, who comes in at 11, the Florida State edge. But Nagbury behind Drake Jackson, who's at number 4, behind Zach Harrison of Ohio State. That I feel is a bit too rich in my opinion. That was the most surprising thing I saw from his edge list here.
Yeah, this edge class is insane. I mean, if you told me, so he goes 11 deep here. I don't know if you read off all 11, but top 11 guys in this class, I could be convinced into any one of them going in the first round. That's how good like this class is by draft day. Obviously, it depends on who all declares, but that is how talented these guys are from top to bottom. And I said it when we were talking about Kingsley last week. I was like, I can't fathom why more people don't like this guy. Like he has been uber productive, has great size for the position. I don't think he's an elite athlete by any means, but I think he's a plus athlete for the position, which obviously is an athletic-driven position, but he's already so good with his hands and plays a physical game as a pass rusher and has a number of moves that I think he's the one that probably is the biggest difference between PFF draft board and maybe some other draft boards around, in the media at the moment.
Going to wrap with cornerbacks and safeties here and then move to Trevor Sikkema's mock draft. But corner, not a lot of surprises. Derek Stingley as CB1 for Corey Giddings. Then he has Andrew Booth Jr. of Clemson at 2. Martin Emerson of Mississippi State at 3. Then you have McDuffie of Washington at 4 and Ahmad Gardner at 5. Kaiir Elam getting faded a bit. He comes in at number 6. That was kind of the more surprising thing I've seen for me. Elam, I think, could eventually for everyone be this kind of top 5, top 4 consensus corner. But what are your reactions?
Yeah, I think that's like the 6 right there that everyone's going to, in some order, agree upon at the top. And then after that, that's like the tier, I guess like Stingley probably in his own tier, but then the tier 2 is Booth, Emerson, McDuffie, Gardner, Elam. Those guys are going to be some order, the next 5 guys off the board, if I had to guess right now.
For safety, Kyle Hamilton, safety 1. Then he has Brisker of Penn State at 2, Jaquan Brisker. Jalen Catalon, the hard-hitting, smaller safety for Arkansas at 3. And then I haven't watched a ton of number 4 for Giddings here. Damani Richardson of Texas A&M. Have you turned on his tape at all?
Yeah, I've watched some Damani Richardson and the other safety there whose names I'm actually blanking on at the moment. I like Richardson's sort of versatility. He's a bigger dude, 6'1", 210, and can play around the line of scrimmage and the slot and deep. He has that all-around skill set, but I think guys in that, there's a number of guys in that mold in that class. Obviously, Brisker can do that. Hamilton can do that. But the guy behind him on this list, Jordan Battle, is the one I like to do that probably the best out of anyone not named Kyle Hamilton, who's a freak of nature, who's like on a different spectrum in his own right. But like Jordan Battle is very versatile, has almost near identical size to Damani Richardson, but far more plays on the football on his tape this year, last year, any year of his career so far. So that's who I'd prefer. We'll see, obviously, how they end up come draft day, but that's like the safety I'm leaning towards. Who he has number 5 on this list, not too far off, but I just haven't seen the playmaking ability from Richardson that I have from Battle.
My take here is he has to be expecting Brandon Joseph to go back to school, or are we completely moving Brandon Joseph out of top 100?
He hasn't had a great year. They've put him in the slot more this year, so he was a deep safety last year at Northwestern a lot. They put him around the line of scrimmage more, trying to, like, in college, you probably want that guy around the line of scrimmage more because then you just make more plays on the football. Like quarterbacks, the way passing games are going in college football, it's a lot more horizontal, a lot more underneath stuff. So you can make more plays around the line of scrimmage, and he has not looked as good as he did last year when he was playing more deep. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And he is kind of a pure single high or deep safety and does not look good around the line of scrimmage.
All right, let's now jump to Trevor Sikkema's 2022 mock draft. Big shout out to Bleacher Report for putting that top 100 together. I think that is a cool project to get that many different minds to put a 100 together like a team, so to speak. I think it's a pretty sweet one. But Trevor Sikkema, he put together a 2022 mock draft, I think, last week. And before we do so, though, I got to let you know, 25% off any PFF subscription if you use promo code TAILGATE. That's TAILGATE. Promo code TAILGATE saves you 25% on any PFF subscription, college subscriptions, Edge, Elite. Get access to everything at PFF.com. Use promo code TAILGATE for 25% off. For Trevor's mock draft, I want to focus in on a couple picks. I'm not going to read off every single one. He has the Jets here picking at 6. I don't care about order. People who get upset about mock draft order in season should honestly just stop reading.
Why would you even read the mock?
Yeah, just don't read. Just don't read. But number 6, he has cornerback Ahmad Gardner going inside the top 6. He's has him going as the second cornerback off the board to the Jets. Do you think, I know there's obviously more tape to go.
Yeah.
And Ahmad Gardner, I think, is this kind of consensus CB4 to CB7, 8 for some people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he goes inside the top 10. I love Ahmad Gardner, too. I don't know if Ahmad Gardner goes inside the top 10, though.
No, I'd be very surprised if he does. And if I'm the Jets and I can't get Derek Stingley at the top of this draft, like if he's off the board by the time I'm picking, I'm not going cornerback with one of these top 2 picks. Kind of because what I said about that tier 2 at the cornerback position, that includes guys like Ahmad Gardner, guys like Kaiir Elam, guys like
Trent McDuffie.
No, excuse me, not Trent McDuffie. That's not who I want to say. Martin Emerson, who would all fit their scheme, who are that type of corner that would fit Robert Saleh's defense. Long, zone type of corners that can play well. So, like, you don't need to pick. I'd say the difference between those guys, in my eyes, is not massive that you need to go reach. Now, obviously, Ahmad Gardner does fit their scheme to a T. I think would be excellent in Robert Saleh's defense. But it has been a defense that can famously get by with lesser draft corners, whether it's Rich Sherman in the 5th round. Now that's maybe an outlier, but Byron Maxwell later on in drafts. Guys who are unique fits to that wouldn't work in Vic Fangio's scheme as well. Wouldn't play in, Bill Belichick's scheme, aren't pure man corners that you can get by. And guys like Bryce Hall, who I think is, played well there, but dropped to the 5th round for a reason. And obviously it was ankle injury, but also because not every defense could have had a good role for him. So I do think that if I'm the Jets, I would be unlikely to use that again, barring Stingley not being there.
Want to move to pick 11. He has the Washington football team picking quarterback Malik Willis, PFF's QB1 right now, as the top quarterback drafted. Do you like? I said right now. I said right now.
Maybe not right now. On the last update.
On the last update, so not right now. On the last update, currently, or I guess not currently. I don't know. On the last
update that expired the time it was published.
Fair enough. Malik Willis, though. I want to use this conversation. Do you think the first quarterback in April's draft goes outside the top 10 as it is here? And do you think Washington, if they are picking in this spot, should they, if they're picking inside the top 10, top 12, which I think they very well could be, do you think they go quarterback?
God damn it. Why do you ask me these questions? It's so early.
It's early, but it's
that
time.
If first quarterback goes outside the top 10, I will say no. I think quarterback goes top 10.
Gotcha.
You got to ask me who it is? Shit, I have no clue. I really don't. But desperation is strong around the NFL. And as much as I don't love this quarterback class, it doesn't feel like 2013. That was the last time one didn't go in the top 10, correct?
I think so.
And that was EJ Manuel comes off the board. It's like, just compare EJ Manuel and his skill set to what we got now. Like, there's tools. There are tools in this class that someone can talk themselves into. Daniel Jones goes 6. Other guys, Josh Rosen goes 10. Like, there are guys that go top 10 that kind of come out of nowhere, or that you're unexpected come draft day. I very much foresee that being the case this season.
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I can't imagine, especially
but again,
with
I can't tell you who it is.
How many teams need quarterbacks? I mean, there's so many teams that are going to be drafting inside the top 10 that will be in desperation situations for the quarterback position.
You got Detroit. You got Philly. Multiple times Philly in the top 10. You got Houston. You have
New York Giants potentially.
Probably not quite. Washington. There's a lot. So
we'll see.
Denver maybe.
Moving down the list here, want to highlight a couple more picks. He has the Kansas City Chiefs snagging Kingsley Enagbare of South Carolina at 18. I don't know if they're going to be picking at 18. It might be a little bit higher. But is it obvious that the Kansas City Chiefs should lock into this edge class? I mean, I know it's early, but man, this pass rush, we've talked about this defensive line all year long. They should dip their toes, right? They should dip their toes in trying to get an Aiden Hutchinson, a Kingsley Enagbare. Obviously not going to have an opportunity to get Kayvon Thibodeaux, but I do like the idea of like consistently mocking edges or pass rushers to the Chiefs as we kind of move forward.
Yeah, I think there are a number of teams that will be in luck with this edge class that you just got to do it. It's that good. There's that many talented guys that you would be crazy to. I mean, I don't want to never advocate locking on opposition, but it was kind of like the tackle class at the top of 2 years ago, where it was, Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs. You take one. It was the Bucs were sitting at, 14 in that draft before they traded up, and it's just like, you take one. You take which one falls to you. You're going to do it because that's where your roster's at. That's what you need. That's where this position is strong. Now, you don't sit at 18 and draft Austin Jackson. Once the run's done, it's done. But in this class, like I said, 11 guys I could foresee going in the first round. One of them should be sitting on the board for the Chiefs. So they are in luck.
I have another. So in this mock draft, he has the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20, taking Matt Corral, Ole Miss, and then at 28, Sam Howell comes off the board to the Detroit Lions via trade with the Los Angeles Rams. I would not be surprised. I know we're saying a team will take a quarterback in the top 10, maybe multiple, but I would not be surprised if the back end of the first round there are a handful of quarterbacks taken in this kind of hodgepodge class, like Howell, like Corral, maybe Rattler if he declares, like these guys where you want to pick up that fifth-year option, you want to have them, cost controlled, contract controlled for those 5 years, but you're not 100% convinced in him being that top 10, top 15 player. I do like, especially for some of these teams, like if the Lions are drafting that low, Steelers drafting that low, getting one of those quarterbacks in this class in that range is such an easier pill to swallow than committing, a top 10, top 15 pick in the round one.
Yes. Now, the fifth-year option with the changes made in the new CBA is not super valuable. Like I wouldn't give up negative EV in a trade just to go get that fifth-year option for these quarterbacks in this class. But if there's a guy you like, obviously, then you move up to go get him to make sure you're going to get him. But I think for Detroit, where they're sitting now, sitting at 28 and grabbing a guy makes so much more sense than wasting that. I don't want to say wasting that number one overall pick, but not getting a Kayvon Thibodeaux to try to get a quarterback, or not getting maybe they may not end up the number one overall pick, not getting a Derek Stingley to go get your quarterback. You have that second first rounder that you got from the Rams. And there's, like I said, it's a hodgepodge quarterback class. Wait on it. Use that second first rounder for one of these quarterbacks. If you're New Orleans sitting there, end of the first round, they're another team that makes a ton of sense to be in this quarterback class. There's no real. You can be missing out on blue chip players at other positions if you're a top 5 or 6 pick in this draft and going for a quarterback.
Make sure to go to pff.com to check out Trevor Sikkema's mock draft. Also, Mike, you're dropping a mock draft on Monday.
Next Monday.
That you might have to check out. Go ahead and check that out when you get there. If you're listening to this podcast on Monday, the following Monday, make sure to check it out. Also, check out DraftKings. NFL fans hungry for a big win this week. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game, and if they do, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, chicken dinner. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Sportsbook DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 and any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you can win with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. On to our risers and fallers. After Bleacher Report 100, Trevor Sikkema 2022 mock draft risers and fallers. Kayvon Thibodeaux, monster this past week, kind of solidifying his status as this consensus top player in the 2022 NFL draft.
Yeah, he is a different dude physically. Very reminiscent of, like I said, Myles Garrett coming out of Texas A&M, where it's just like, damn. There's even from like a physical tools perspective compared to Chase Young. Like Chase Young was more advanced as a pass rusher, but I think Kayvon Thibodeaux is a better athlete for the edge, or like he is a more flexible athlete, like the type of athlete that wins on the edge that just. You saw it in this one, 10 pressures against UCLA, lining up all over the place, beating guards, running backs, tight ends, tackles. And still, again, like he's not super refined, but it's kind of the beauty of it, that he's so damn good. 92.9 pass rushing grade now in the season. with few moves. Like, he's just that ridiculous. One of my favorite plays was he didn't even see a crack block coming from a wide receiver, gets rocked, doesn't even just eats it, just bounces off a tackle, and then goes out and almost makes a play on the running back. It was insane. Like, you never see a guy not see a crack block coming. One, stay on his feet. To even stay on his feet was insane. But then to go out and still try to make a play on the ball carrier was just indicative of how special this guy is as an athlete.
How do you think he's going to test? I saw some.
That's the thing. Like, he didn't make the freaks list because we asked Bruce Feldman that. And he said, Oregon had other guys that tested better. And I was like, well, shit, really? Like, now, again, testing isn't necessarily everything, but I bet he'll have some number that's like, oh, okay, that's wild. That's different for a guy 6'5", 258. Whether it's his 3 count, because 3 counts aren't sexy, but I do think he'll run a pretty good 3 count.
Want to move to now Nevada's Carson Strong.
Sexy to me, damn it.
What?
Said they're sexy to me, damn it.
They're sexy to me, damn it. Especially the Devil's 3 cone, the 666 3 cone.
If he puts that up.
You have to love to see that. Carson Strong and Romeo Doubs, the quarterback and wide receiver for Nevada, also on your risers list here. Carson Strong against Fresno State in a loss. I'll say that, in a loss. Went 49 of 61 for 476, 4 TDs, and a pick. And then on the receiving end, Romeo Doubs, 19 receptions.
Yeah.
19 receptions for 203 yards and a touchdown. It helps that he threw the ball 61 times and had 49 completions, but still, to lock into a receiver for 19 receptions is absolutely bananas.
Yeah, it was #fun to watch. He had the best 2-minute drill I've seen from a quarterback all year, at least. It was nuts. He made 2 back-to-back throws in that drive that was the best 2-throw sequence you'll see all year. I should probably tweet it out here at some point this week. It really was insane. The arm talent on full display. Now, Fresno State's D, whatever, but they've played well against Oregon, UCLA this year. Like, it's not a trash defense for, group of 5 competition. So, yeah, Carson Strong, still, like I said, kind of an arm talent project, probably a second round type of guy, but that was good. That was good football. I think, think more about this quarterback class. Remember last year, as good as that quarterback class was, you even saw late in the process, the rumor mill turning that like Davis Mills could be a first rounder. Mm-hmm. How many of these quarterbacks are you going to hear those rumors about? Like Carson Strong, Jake Haener, like Keaton Slovis. Like, there are going to be so many quarterbacks in this class specifically where there is a guy that likes Strong as a first rounder. There is a guy who likes Slovis as a first rounder. Man, I am excited. This conversation is going to be so much different than last year in that there were like 5 obvious, like top 20, top 30 players at the quarterback position. Now, this year, there's going to be like 10 to 12 guys that people are like, you know what, Tanner McKee, I might slip him in. I could be down. Like, that's going to be a lot of fun to follow as you move forward. And then Doubs, to bring him up, the wide receiver there, 6'2", 200. He's probably the guy I'm looking forward to most watching in one-on-ones at the Shrine Bowl. He caught a screen in this game, and just like his acceleration for a guy that size, guys of that height, it's just difficult to. You're not going to accelerate like a 5'9", 5'10", 5'11" wide receiver does. It's like the point guard in basketball theory. But he has that, and so I'm excited to see what he can do in one-on-ones when he gets there.
On to Weidemeyer here. He is the Texas A&M tight end. He's another riser on your list. And a bludgeoning of the Gamecocks. Texas A&M won 44-14. Weidemeyer caught 4 for 73 in this game, or 75, and 2 touchdowns. He, one of those dudes in a deep tight end class, maybe not top heavy, but a deep tight end class loaded with Weidemeyer, Trey McBride, etc. Isaiah Likely of Coastal Carolina too.
Yeah, so he's been in the mix for tight end 1, and I think it's him and Trey McBride right now that I would put as the 2 most likely candidates. I think Isaiah Likely, I'd say Likely. And then Isaiah Likely is kind of just not the guy I'm going to prefer in that trio. I like him, but your tight end 1, the guy you're going to draft, as to make that guy, if you're really going to draft a guy in 2nd, 3rd round, you want him to be an inline blocker, and I just don't quite see it for Isaiah Likely yet. Not that he's not willing. I think he is, but he's 240 pounds. Looks like a wide receiver. And so that's not going to play in every offense in the NFL. Weidemeyer, though, slow start. We've talked about him before. Did not come on strong so far this season. Didn't have a touchdown until week 5, but 2 touchdowns in this game. Showed it after the catch on one, and then had a great post route where he shook a safety on the other. a legit inline dude at 6'5", 255, has that to his game to where it's a debate between him and Trey McBride right now between who would be tight end 1.
John Mechie of Alabama on the list as well.
Showed up.
It was, that Tennessee-Bama game was fantastic. Jameson Williams also had a good game for Bama, but 52-24, Alabama even covered the spread after what was kind of a slow start against Tennessee. They win 52-24. For Jameson Williams, he had in this one 6 receptions for 123, but Mechie, 11 receptions for 121 and 2 scores. Only pass catcher with 2 scores in this game.
Mechie, for as much as we've said he hasn't developed into that guy, and like Judy was a couple years ago, like obviously Devontae Smith was last year, he has improved. There have been aspects to his game that look better. The biggest thing to me is he looks much stronger this year, especially after the catch. He's like breaking arm tackles instead of going down against those. He just looks like a more well-built wide receiver, more NFL ready in that regard, as opposed to maybe, we thought of him maybe as a Calvin Ridley type of role. I think I don't want to say he's more than that, but I think he can actually be the guy you throw screens to, whereas I don't think Calvin Ridley's doing much with the last screen touches. I think he can actually be a guy who, after the catch, can produce as well. 17 broken tackles so far this year after only 5 last year. So a different guy strength-wise, even if the production numbers haven't been out of this world like we were hoping they'd be.
Kyler Gordon, the Washington corner, a guy that...
The other Washington.
Yeah, other Washington corner. I don't think he doesn't get talked about enough in what is a very good cornerback class. But Kyler Gordon, opposite of McDuffie, has been phenomenal. Also another really athletic player, a guy that Jimmy Lake has developed amazingly. This past week, 0 receptions allowed on 5 targets.
2 weeks in a row. Hasn't allowed a catch. The movement skills of these two dudes at Washington are insane. Now, they're not maybe they're not that long NFL mold, either of them, I wouldn't say, but they both have ultra smooth hips. Both are really explosive, great balance. I'm big fans of both of them. And like, you look at the numbers this year, with 13 to 28 targets for 179 yards all year long. He has been excellent on the outside for the Huskies, and he's going to go to the combine test off the chart. So Kyler Gordon, maybe not a day 1 corner, but he's a day 2 corner for sure.
Kenny Pickett on this list. He's a big riser for everyone who's following the draft or even college football this year. They beat Clemson at home 27-17. I don't want to focus too much on DJ Uiagalelei, who has not lived up to expectations.
I don't
this
either.
Year. Went 12-25 for 128 and 2 picks in this game. But Kenny Pickett.
We were going to interview Big Dave, and we were just like, it's not going to be good content.
It's not a good
anymore.
Conversation this year.
It's not going to be a good content.
The first question is,
we're going to go to Louisville, interview Big Dave. We had talked to him already, and now he got benched.
Yeah.
But other side of the ball, Kenny Pickett,
25 of 39 for 302 and 2 TDs in this game. Easily like one of the, if not the like biggest riser in college football,
Yes.
A known commodity at this point.
Yeah, truly a different player this year than he has been at any point in time. And he's always had, a strong arm. He's always had the tools, the size, some mobility, some escapability. But his accuracy was always question mark and has improved that a good deal so far this year. Like this game, 77.5 passing grade. Not even I think that's his 6th highest graded game all season long. And obviously it's coming against Clemson, the hardest tape. But that is higher than any Power 5 opponent he played last year. Any FBS opponent that he played last year. That's a higher grade than any game last year. And that's against Clemson. A real deal, the best defense he's going to face all season. The tape that every NFL evaluator is going to go to when they say, let me look at Kenny Pickett. I'm ready to talk about him as if I'm Saints team, if I'm Lions team, if I'm maybe the Steelers team, thinking about maybe they're picking in the late teens. I'm looking at Kenny Pickett hard down the stretch because that's how good he's been this season, and looking deeper into it and being like, is this for real? Where did this come from? How is he so much better this year? Talking to the coaching staff there, because now this wasn't – there still are issues on him. I still think he's late to too many throws. He still will hold on to the ball to a fault. But I love his pocket movement, and you can't argue with some of the throws he's put on tape this year. That one the touchdown rolling right in this game was an absolute dime, one of the best throws I saw all weekend. That I'm very intrigued by what he's put on tape so far. I'm thinking about, if I'm in the back end of the first round, I'm thinking about him. That's all I'll say.
Let's move to our fallers here. Before we do so, proud sponsor of Tailgate Podcast is Western and Southern. Whether it's football success or financial savvy, the right questions help set the stage for winning strategies. Western and Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to share insights that can help put you ahead on both your fantasy and financial scoreboards. Want to hear about Chris's old playing days or behind the scenes with Al on Sunday Night Football? How about a need to know for your financial future? Now you can ask about either or both. And every football or financial question you ask earns you a chance to win a catered party for February's big game. Check out the Chris Collinsworth podcast and Western Southern's Instagram for answers to the best questions each week. Submit your questions at westernsouthern.com/askchris. One more time, that is westernsouthern.com/askchris. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. Remember, with Western Southern, you can rest assured on game day. Fallers, Perion Winfrey, Oklahoma defensive tackle, also Bleacher Report's DT2 on that. He has not graded well of late, and he had easily the lowest graded game of his season against Kansas, a 39.1 PFF grade, 0 total pressures, the only game this year where he's had no pressures on 16 pass rushing snaps, also the lowest or tied for the lowest he's seen this season. Just a 60.1 PFF grade on the year for Winfrey.
Yeah, it's been, so you're kind of seeing why he was a DPR in 2020, a designated pass rusher, to where he was 290 pass rushing snaps compared to only 113 run defense snaps, meaning like he's on the field when you think the other team's going to pass. And now he's a full-time starter. And he has a 40.4 run defense grade because the dude cannot hold up to double teams. And it's and this is Kansas' offensive line. This is not Alabama's. This is not anything close to what he's going to sniff in the NFL. And he was 8+ yards down the field at times against double teams in this game. That is either a complete lack of lower body strength, which I don't think it is, but also effort. There's a lot of questions about why a guy who is that talented as Perion Winfrey is, was he on Bruce Feldman's streaks list? If not, he is one of the most athletic DTs in the country, to be that bad against the run so far this season. And even in this game, no pressures against Kansas either on 16 pass rushing snaps. It was an all-around ugly performance.
A burn the tape
from him.
Performance
Exactly.
for Winfrey.
Yeah.
Xavier Thomas, man, we've been waiting for this breakout for a while. It's just, I don't know if it's coming, Mike. I don't know if the Xavier Thomas breakout is coming. 304 total snaps played this year, 59.4 PFF grade against Pittsburgh, only 4 pressures, and it wasn't even a high pass rushing grade, only a 65.8 pass rushing grade. He, since 2018, has not had a single season grade above 70. This breakout's not coming. I don't know if this breakout's coming.
One of the most inexplicable careers I can remember, since we started grading in 2014 from a guy. He was powerful as a freshman for Clemson, legitimately manhandling tackles, 18, 19 years old, manhandling. And now it's there's no physicality to his game. There's no explosiveness. He's so timid into contact that it's a different player. And man, the grade shows it best. 84.2 pass rushing grade back in 2018, 68.7 this year. 3 years later, or 2018, that was his freshman year. 3 years later, he's a not nearly as impactful player. I struggle with Xavier Thomas because, man, I loved that freshman tape, and that is not who he is right now.
I think, I don't know, man. I'm interested in such a good edge class too. Xavier Thomas, not even scratching the surface, despite having perceived tools and stuff. It's tough to watch for Clemson. Josh Jobe, another faller on this list, allowed a 70-yard pass in this one, easily the longest of his career. You hate to see it. Also allowed 99 yards on the day, 4 receptions allowed. Yeah,
not been a banner year for Jobe. And he got quick snapped on the one, was not ready, but makeup speed was not catching up at all on that 70-yard touchdown. So that is a bit of a concern for him. The penalties have not subsided this year that we talked about last year. Led the FBS in penalties with 11, 6 so far this season. Only a 63.6 coverage grade. I talked about that tier 2 of corners. He is firmly outside of that. He is a late day 2 guy, seemingly at best right now with what he's put on tape so far this season.
Last one on the fallers list, Desmond Ritter. You kind of hinted at the top, Bleacher Report's QB1. I think QB3 on Mel Kiper's big board right now. Desmond Ridder, the Cincinnati quarterback, who leads the number 2 team in the country, did not have a good game against Navy, though.
I'll give him credit. Before this game, he is the reason why no one talks about the fact that Cincinnati has one of the worst pass blocking grades in college football right now. Their offensive line has been a massive, or should be, a massive, massive issue. It has been very, very bad. If Jack Cohn was behind there, Jack Cohn might be hospitalized at the moment. It's been that bad. But Ridder gets the ball out very well, is incredible at working from tight pockets. I have been very impressed with his development in that regard. But man, in this one, he made just 2 worst throws of the season. It's throwing the ball away, some inaccuracy, some just waving on some throws. 3 turnover-worthy plays on the day, only resulted in 1 pick, but 18 of 30, 176 yards. It was bad all around. And again, Navy. And I think that's the biggest thing with Ridder is that he's not, yes, like he's played fairly well, but he hasn't played lights out. And the competition level for what it has been, you would expect lights out if you want to be drafting a guy, first round.
On to Watch Wednesdays. Renaming it to Watch Wednesdays officially. We got Bust Watch, Other Bust Watch, Whiff Watch, Breakout Watch, and Washed Watch. And then we'll go to your next edition.
We shouldn't clarify the Bust Watches. We should just let people guess which one we're talking about.
I like that. Even though
you should be able to figure it out, but maybe if you don't.
Anyway, then the last thing, we'll have a first-round lock list. You'll add another name to the first-round lock list, and then we'll close out with the interview with Oregon State head coach Jonathan Smith. Let's start with Bust Watch. Brandon Aiyuk / Dante Pettis joining Bust Watch. This is tough. A little early for Aiyuk or no?
Well, it's the Dante Pettis path is what it is. I mean, this is what happened with Dante Pettis. He looked good as a rookie. Year 2, inexplicably can't see the football field. And in this one, obviously the whatever punt, but he's on the field for 23 pass plays, gets 1 target for 6 yards. I'm not sure what. No one knows. No one knows why he can't see a target, can't see the football field, can't get the majority of the snaps there in that 49ers offense while Trent Sherfield is out snapping him on the year. Now, again, it's only year 2. A lot of time left, but I think after, or was it before the game, or during the game, I think Al Michaels said that Kyle Shanahan said to them that he loves the kid, but that he's got to start grinding, which you obviously can't speak to what's going on behind the scenes, but this is again, sort of a movie that 49ers fans have seen, and it didn't end well last time, and it looks like it might not end well this time.
My opinion on it is that from what we've heard, which is very little, this has nothing to do with his ability. He is still, when he gets the opportunities, dynamic after the catch, explosive. I liked how he separated last year. I thought he was going to improve on that route running from last year. This has to do with what we don't see. When he shows, this is when he shows up to practice, when he leaves, what he's doing in the film room, what he's doing in the weight room, nutrition, like that. I don't know. I'm not speaking to which one it is, but it has to be something with his work ethic, right? When he says he's not grinding, he needs to grind. In my opinion, he's just not putting in the work to improve, right? That's how
that's what grinding means. What else? Grinding.
Well, you're saying we can't speak to what's behind the scenes, but that's definitely what it is. It's definitely like work ethic stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's the concern, man. I think that's.
You hate that stuff. Did we interview him? Did you?
We did. We had Brandon Aiyuk on this show.
What'd you think? If you didn't fall in love, then there are probably concerns.
I don't know. Brandon Aiyuk, I don't know, man. I guess I am kind of surprised by it, though, because it's wild to see, just how good he is when he does get the opportunities. He's got to be, not grinding to a notable degree.
But it's also weird the way in San Francisco, guys almost get entirely phased out. That rarely happens around the NFL where guy like what happened to Dante Pettis, where he just wouldn't see the field at all, and I think or even get targets at all when he was in the field. It's weird to see that happening in the 49ers offense.
There's definitely some opportunity, maybe around just talking. Trying to get a conversation with Aiyuk and Pettis at some point, seeing what the hell happened and what they weren't doing right, I guess. Yeah. But Bust Watch, the other bust, Jalen Ramsey. A little early for Ramsey? No, I think it's fine. I think Ramsey has been...
It's combo.
Like, yeah, he's like in the conversation, but also like consensus top cornerback in the NFL for a few years now. And we'll have, I think, the notoriety, like the league and fans, like Jalen Ramsey was one of the first. When I ask these corners, who's the players they watch, everyone brings up Jalen Ramsey. He has been like the banner, the poster child for the position over the past few years.
I think that's the thing. You have about 3 years of his career up to this point. So he's in year 6. You probably got 3 years of his career where he was the unquestioned top quarterback, where 90, or not 90, but 75% of people would say he's the number one cornerback in the NFL. And that's halfway through his career. And yes, it is early. It's 6 years into his career. But I think that is a big thing that factors into, obviously, Hall of Fame conversations. Were you the best were you unquestionably the best? And I think that's already, for half a season, it's ready to be that is a good start. Now, going back and looking at the cornerbacks from the 2000s that have made it, you got Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey, Ty Law, Aeneas Williams was kind of in the 2000s. You got in too. I think Darrelle Revis will get in. I think Richard Sherman will get in. Then after that, you kind of turn the leaf into this sort of new age, this era of cornerbacks. I don't see anyone that's really competing with Ramsey. Say Richard Sherman retires after this year, after next year, whatever. Ramsey plays 5-6 more years. I don't see anyone right now that really is kind of
on that path,
or just like competing against Ramsey's Hall of Fame candidacy, where it's like Ramsey will be that guy for the foreseeable future. Maybe Jair Alexander, not Marlon Humphrey after what happened on Sunday, but that's how I see it. And so those guys like Bailey, Woodson obviously played forever. Bailey played like 13 years. Law, I believe, in the similar range. That I think you need 5 or 6 more years from Ramsey, but he is, like I said, on path to be that guy.
Whiff watch. Andre Dillard, former Washington State offensive tackle, was a PFF favorite in that draft class. A guy that I think the most common thing brought up with Dillard was the true pass sets. Like, he had so many and he graded so well on these true pass sets in Washington State's offense, has not panned out for Philly in the league.
Well, I wouldn't say he's not panned out in the league. It's more, we had him the 13th overall player on that draft board. Now he has 75.8 pass blocking grade this year, but he could very well be moved here before the trade deadline, because obviously Jordan Mailata is the starter there. And I believe only one more year in a contract for Dillard, but like they're not going to, like he's not going to play if their tackles stay healthy. So he'll end up walking. But so he's been fine when he has played so far this season. But if you're the 13th overall player on the draft board, that should be better than what he's been. And obviously injuries played a factor, missed all of 2020. But I think 13th overall, in retrospect, in that class, that was a bit of a whiff. He was probably more of a mid-20s, 30s guy in that class. So if they do obviously trade him, that would be a pretty big stunner for a guy just 22nd overall picked a few years back.
What do you think his trade value is? Premium position, like you said,
all right this year.
Premium position hasn't been awful.
And then probably, actually, you would have, if you did trade for him, 2 more years after this of control of him.
Third? Or is that too rich? Maybe a fourth?
I feel like if you're desperate, I don't know who out there is desperate for tackle help that's like a contender. And like you are a contender this year, your second would be the back end of the second. I'd be willing to give up a second for Andre.
Wow. Yeah. That's not too big of a whiff then. I mean, 13th overall. I mean, if he can still garner second round value.
But I in the draft board, like everyone glorifies, later round picks and whatever, but it's really the top that matters the most. Because if you fuck up your first round pick, you fuck up. Like that's a big miss to fuck up a top 15 guy on your draft board. Those guys better be damn good every single year.
Whiff watch, Rashan Gary, former Michigan edge, now plays for the Green Bay Packers, was notably behind Chase Winovich on our draft board.
Until this year though.
What?
Until this year, though, he was not better than.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, notably behind Chase Winovich, teammate at Michigan, has played a lot better this year. He's been on our breakout conversations on a handful of podcasts.
Yes, and so he had beaten up sort of the type of rusher he is. He's 275, explosive dude, beats up tackles who struggle to anchor. Like that's who he beat up in the past. And I think this year you've seen like another move, or I guess like a a plan B. He's not just going through guys every time he wins. And even this past week, like that wasn't the majority of his wins. He's learned to use his hands so much better to clear himself, to get basically he's not a bend the edge type of guy. And so he struggled to really win the edge with just pure get off and then, like I said, bend. He has done much better to win with his hands, keep his body clean, to finish some of these plays this year and to get to the quarterback. 9 hits already on the season through 7 games, 83.6 pass rushing grade, a massive step up from what we've seen from him in the past. And especially, again, this past week, we talked about it, right? 10 pressures. Definitely ascending breakout type of player that Green Bay needed badly, because their pass rush was struggling early on. And even he was struggling some early on, to where they needed someone to step up. With Darius Smith out, Rashan Gary has been that guy.
Last week, we put Jason Pierre-Paul on the washed watch, and he stepped up. Now, this week, Jimmy Graham joining washed watch. He's been washed for a while.
And this one is overdue, but it intrigued me, or piqued my interest this past week, because he got COVID and was listed on the COVID list missed the game, obviously against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I went back to look. I'm like, damn, I haven't even I knew he was still on the roster, but I hadn't even thought of him.
Has anybody?
All year. And I wondered why I hadn't even thought of him. Well, it's because he has 1 catch for 11 yards. He's been on the field 54 pass plays.
Yikes.
And he's about to turn, guess how old he is?
32.
He's 35. He's about to turn 35. And they signed him for a 2-year, $16 million deal after we would have put him on wash watch back in 2019 with Green Bay, when he was a disaster there for the Packers.
He's making
one of the worst
$8 million
signings.
a year?
$8 million a year. They didn't cut him this past offseason to get 11 yards on one.
He's gotten $8 million a catch so far. That's absurd.
Dude.
There's no way. That doesn't make any sense to me. How is he not signing for the veteran minimum?
Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. One of the worst free agent signings.
That's not
in the
just
past.
washed watch. That's just robbery. We need a robbery watch. Add just someone who's just completely.
That dude's been bathing for years. He's clean as can be.
That's insane. All right, first round lock. Read the list we have so far, and then who you're adding.
Okay. Shit, the list so far. One sec. Pull it up. Got it. We have Kayvon Thibodeaux, Derek Stingley Jr., Evan Neal, Aiden Hutchinson, Kyle Hamilton, DeMarvin Leal, Tyler Linderbaum, Garrett Wilson, Ike Ekwonu. About to add a 10th. It's 9 guys. About to add a 10th. And we're going to go George Karlaftis.
Wow.
Purdue edge / defensive lineman. Line him up wherever. And it's because he has just been consistent. Game in, game out, impact. No bad games in the schedule. No unproductive ones. 90.3 pass rushing grade this year so far. Does not come off the field. Averaging well over 50 snaps a game for Purdue's defense. At 275 pounds. Ironman qualities to him. And obviously was a top 10 player on Bruce Sullivan's Freaks list. That is an all-around profile that gets you excited in the first round.
This edge class, this defensive line class, you already got Leal in the first round lock list. You got Aiden Hutchinson, you got Kayvon Thibodeaux, now you got freaking George Karlaftis. This is
4 guys in the D-line class.
Very good.
Yes, it's going to be a very good defensive end class.
And it's in a league where everyone needs pass rush help. It's one of the most premium positions in the NFL. Highest paid 9 quarterbacks are all pass rushers. You can tell the Chiefs that with Frank Clark. On to our interview now with Oregon State head coach Jonathan Smith. Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Oregon State head coach, also former Oregon State quarterback, 4-year starter there at Oregon State, is Coach Jonathan Smith. John, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
For those who don't know, who are not watching enough Pac-12 football, your Oregon State football team has been phenomenal this year, largely exceeding expectations, coming off a huge win over Utah. I think where I'd like to start is this kind of underdog mentality that I'm sure you've leaned into a bit, that your team and your players have really grabbed onto and helped lead to some of the success that you've had. Did you enter this season with that kind of mentality, and how much do you think that has fueled some of the successes that you've had?
I think we did come into this season within our building, having high expectations and feeling, some confidence with the returning players we had and whatnot. We try to block out outside noise, right, as you go through a season and really be locked into just what we our messages, our beliefs are. But look, these guys are very well that you got to go earn respect on the field, and they were anxious to go do it this season. And about halfway through it, I think we've earned a lot of respect.
No, 100%. I think an interesting thing for a team like Oregon State, who is having a lot of success, is as expectations start to mount a bit, as this somewhat of an underdog mentality starts to fade because you guys are winning football games and exceeding expectations. How do you keep your guys level-headed and still approaching every week with that kind of cliche of let's go 1-0 every week? We have to earn this respect every single week. What have been some of the things you've been telling your players or the strategies you've been kind of laying out to make sure that you guys stay level-headed?
Yeah, we do talk about it, especially early in weeks like we did this week. The previous game is what it is. We got to learn and improve from it, win, lose, or draw. And also reminding them that because they've had that approach each week preparing for that particular Saturday, we've had some success. So why are we going to go and start to change that? We've talked about it early in the season, wanting to play our best football in November. At the end of the season. And the only way we were going to be able to do that is each week having great weeks of preparation, playing, competing, ideally winning on Saturdays, learning from it, and sticking with that process throughout the year. And if we did that, we'd play our best ball in November when the games mean the most.
Yeah, I think that's honestly a fantastic mentality. I don't think I've heard that from any coach. Well, let's play our best ball in November. That's when things need to show up, and obviously you're competing for bowl games and these different things. That's kind of awesome to hear. So much of this success, I think, has been on this offense. It's a top 20 offense in EPA per play or overall efficiency in the FBS, and a lot of that has been led by former JUCO quarterback Chance Nolan, who is having a wildly successful start to the 2021 season. And this is kind of his first full season. Last year he obviously played some, but it was the 2020 COVID impacted season. This year, really hitting his stride for Oregon State. I guess speak to the development he's had under your tenure, and also just what are some of the things that have led to this success in 2021?
Yeah, he's definitely a totally different player than he was a year ago. In fairness, last year was his first year. He ended up playing toward the end of the year because of injury and did some solid things, but it's drastically different. His confidence right now is comfortable in the scheme. He's definitely got some great help around him. Our offensive line's playing and protecting him well. We got guys on the outside making some plays for him. Our run game always helps the quarterback. And so there's a lot of contributions that have created a chance to play well, help us win games. His decisions with the ball have been solid. And he's got a skill set that it's just not about throwing. He can extend the plays, not shy when he goes to run. And so with all of that, he's helped us to be pretty successful offensively.
To play that best ball in November, what do you feel are some of the strides or even further strides Nolan can take to improve his game?
Yeah, he's got to learn from each week. People are going to game plan. We got a lot of tape out there now halfway through the season, and so any tendencies he has or flaws in his game are going to get exposed. So we got to learn each week and improve on things or mistakes that we've made previously. He's got to continue to lock the ball up. Again, talked about his game outside the pocket and all that. He's got to keep the thing locked up and protected. Also, I think people are going to throw more coverage at him and not just sit in one look. And so learn throughout the game of what they're giving you, answers to whether he's getting pressured or they're dropping 8 in coverage. All of that is something we'd emphasize. He's working hard. He studies this game. He practices well. And he's going to need to for us to continue to have some success.
I think another thing driving your Oregon State's success this season has been Corvallis. I mean, this home stadium has been a juggernaut for you guys, a clear momentum driver, 4-0 at home so far this year. I don't think enough people talk about how tough it is to play in Corvallis. A lot of people look at Eugene, Oregon, and other UCLA, USC as some of these big, hard to play stadiums in the Pac-12. But man, This Corvallis Stadium, in Corvallis, these fans have come out and really been awesome for Oregon State so far this season.
Yeah, we've got a great student section. It starts with our students, and they've been packed each week and making a difference in the game with energy and noise. And we talked a little bit from a leadership standpoint at the start of the season. These guys wanting to make a larger emphasis of protecting our home turf. And, so far, so good. Got a couple more left, but it needs to be a home field advantage when you play at home. This town, rallies behind this football team. We get great energy and atmosphere at our place, and we've used it so far.
Forgive me for not knowing the origin story for this, but it's one of my favorite props in college football. And I think a lot of teams leverage this in some way. Cincinnati has the basketball hoop, you got the turnover chain in Miami. But what is the origin? What's the history behind the chainsaw turnover prop for Oregon State? It's one of my favorites. I think it has something to do with the Beavers and cutting wood and all that stuff. But man, it is a phenomenal piece and a great part of that culture there.
Yeah, I think it actually starts with our defensive staff. They were brainstorming a couple of years ago to have something to celebrate the turnover and during the game, and it kind of came together, of a chainsaw. And yeah, the state of Oregon, we're chopping wood. We actually have the noise of a chainsaw during home games on third down, and at first, they were a little hesitant. Is this going to work? Is this going to be corny or not? Our players loved it, and it's been a big hit.
That's fantastic. I think every team in the country has that same conversation. It's like, is this going to be corny or are we going to buy in? I think you see the scepter and the throne. I definitely think the chainsaw has avoided corniness. It's a sweet prop, man. I love when it's being leveraged. One more question for you, Coach, and I'll let you go. I really appreciate the time. Now in your fourth year, having some success, you're seeing that success in the recruiting rankings. You're seeing that success, honestly, on the sideline, in the student section. I think talking to a lot of college football coaches, ones that are trying to turn programs around, I love to hear from their point of view. What are some of the things that you've tried to instill from a culture perspective to move this forward? Because oftentimes it's not about getting the players. It's not about changing things around from an X's and O's perspective. It's about changing the culture at different programs. What do you think have been the tenets of that change for you? And what of those have been driving this success?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there, but going all the way back to year one, 3 years ago, I thought it was important to build some trust with these players. They've been through a lot. Majority of them we didn't recruit, and so all of a sudden a new staff rolls in. And so how do you do that? You learn their stories, you learn their names, everybody knowing each other, and used it to, if we're going to know and trust each other on third down and 4 to be in the right spot, we got to be able to trust each other every day. I think the other piece that was important was consistency, especially from the coaches in year one, not having near the success everybody wants, but being able to be consistent, to dive in and keep coaching the players when we're not getting the results we want. I think that has paid dividends for us now in years 3, 4, that these guys truly know that we're going to be consistent with them, not play the blame game, but just truly diving in to help guys improve. And we're reaping some benefits of guys that have been here in the program now 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely. That's awesome to hear, man. I really appreciate the time, Coach, and I wish you the best of luck the rest of the season.
Okay, I appreciate it, Austin.
Jonathan Smith, spectacular guest on the Tailgate Podcast. Also, a spectacular offer on the Tailgate Podcast. It's football season, baby. You know what that means. It means we're going for 2 here with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. Blitzing through Harris has never been easier. And it's time for you to join 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code PFF at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. It's 3 and out the window with all of their trimmers. Now go tame that Wildcat offense. I can't leave the house without my Manscaped trimmer. I can't leave the house without my ball toner or my ball reviver. And the brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here to take your defense to the next level. The 4th generation trimmer features cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch can engage a travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn on the 4,000 LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Rain, snow, or sleet are no match for the waterproof power of the 4.0. There's no 15-yard penalty for this clipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code PFF. Stiff arm your pubes out the playoffs this year with Manscaped. Always love the Manscaped reads.
I know I often shave my balls in sleet, so it's nice that
you often shave your balls in sleet?
Yeah, so it's nice that it's protected from that.
I haven't shaved my balls inside since doing these reads. I know that I need to be outside.
Yeah,
in the
you've
rain
gotten arrested
showers.
a few times, I heard. Yeah.
I mean, you got to test it. Test the product. Rain, snow, or sleet, no match. We'll see. I've been doing it underwater sometimes. Who knows? This is going to do it for the Wednesday episode of Tailgate. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Do it everywhere. Do it absolutely everywhere. Also use promo code TAILGATE for 25% off any PFF subscription on PFF.com. Until next time, Mike Quinn, Austin Gayle. I said Mike Quinn first. I love that, actually. Mike Quinn, the producer, David Safaro, Max Chadwick, Stone Rochelle, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, Tailgate.